Hey, it's Tristan here from ZebraInvest, and today I'm sitting down with Julie from Gothard Row. Some of you might have seen on GB News, some of them might have seen in a networking event, and that's where I found her. I found her hiding away, well, not hiding away, on the middle of the stage, alongside me at PPN in Stratford last year with Russell. But I've got a few different bits to point through, and we're going to go through a few series of a different little episodes to go through. But today we're going to talk all about the Renters' Rights Bill, and looking at what kind of impact it might be having on you as a property investor and how you're going out there, what changes might be happening, and if you are thinking about self-managing, maybe why you don't want to be doing it, and is it really going to be pushing landlords out the market down the line? Um, Personally, I think you're already starting to see it, and the government for a long time have wanted to get rid of landlords, but hey, and then whether the compliance is a little bit too much difficult, but is there a hidden opportunity sitting there at the end there? So, Julie, what do you think this is going to have as an impact to the rest of the property market?
I think it's going to have a huge impact. I mean, it's the biggest change that we've seen in lettings legislation for over 30 years. And it's a big thing that no one likes change. You know, we've had little bits of legislation come in and we've all panicked and thrown our hands up and gone, oh my God, and then it's been perfectly fine. This is a huge, huge change. And I think for many landlords, it's the step too far and it's the straw that broke the camel's back. And like you spoke about, I think we are going to see certain landlords exiting the market, um, predominantly self-managing landlords who just think that this new piece of legislation is just a step too far.
Well, I think you're absolutely bang on because if you look at it already, I pick up the Property Investors News magazine, and they've actually reported last year that I think what they turned around and said it roughly worked out that 2% or 2% of all of the property market out there is going every year, so that it's decreasing. The whole property market is decreasing by 2% every year on the number of rental properties. And so last year they said of all of the 20% of investment properties sold out there, only 10% of people bought new ones back. So the 2% is on the total size of the market. But it's,
Mm.
yeah, you're just seeing a landslide of it. So what kind of changes are coming?
Well, interestingly, you picked up on that 2%. When I was watching the second reading in the House of Lords of the Renters' Rights Bill, that was actually picked up by Lord Best, and he spoke about the 2% depletion and how that would impact the sector going forwards. So that's already, been picked up by Parliament. So they're aware of landlords exiting. But ultimately, I think these changes are going to be a problem across the board and not just for landlords, but for lenders as well, because it's going to change the criteria of how they lend their buy to let mortgages. We're going to see no more fixed term tenancies. So, most landlords and tenants liked the security of a fixed term tenancy, which meant you were signed up for 6 or 12 months or maybe even
Yeah.
18 months. And nobody could really do anything unless the tenant messed up. And a lot of lenders wanted to lend against a tenancy of that security, so 6 or 12 months AST, so assured short hold tenancy. But we're not going to have that anymore. So lenders are going to have to change their criteria, and landlords won't have that security because tenants will be able to give notice at any point after they move in, including on the day they move in. And they're only going to have to give 2 months' notice. So for some landlords, it could mean that they see quite a churn of tenancies if the property isn't just quite right, or if tenants feel they can get a better deal further down the road.
Well, I don't think they're going to be getting much better deals. This is the less stock, less property. I think it's going to be a chance. But I think the government and people seem to forget that actually some tenants do have at a point in their lives where they just need somewhere to be. You got your family house and you do want that long term and you don't want to be forced out of your house, and 100% behind that. But for example, I used to live in London. I lived in London for probably 2, 3 years, but I didn't know whether I was going to enjoy it after 6 months or 12 months. And so every year we'd just sign a 12-month tenancy, get the end of it. It's like, and our landlady was lovely. She'd turn up and she'd say, "Well, do you want to stay here a bit longer?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, of course we do. We're happy. We're paying a good rent for this." But it does seem like it's something that's actually going to make more problems for landlords down the line as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course it is. And I think the government's idea behind removing fixed term tenancies was to allow tenants who were in bad conditions or had a rogue landlord to just leave much sooner than being tied into that fixed term. So the logic I understood, but in practicality, the amount of tenants that actually do have those situations is so minor compared to the tenants that are quite happy with their property and their landlord and want that security of knowing that they've got a fixed term tenancy.
Yeah.
So the government, to me, seem to be attacking the majority to try and target the minority, which never works.
Okay. But so do you think it's self-management just going to get to a point where people are just like, screw this, I'm done?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And I think we've been seeing that for a little while now, especially with the introduction of the Tenant Fees Act, and then new electricity legislation, right to rent, all of these different things trickling in. But that was the thing, while they were trickling in, you could tackle them each individually, but this big piece of legislation is just like a sledgehammer to crack a nut. Self-managing landlords 9 times out of 10 don't do it as a full-time business. They do it on the side. They're what I call
Yeah.
after dinner landlords. So, they've had their full-time job, they come home, and after dinner they'll start being a landlord. And from that kind of situation, you've got them trying to catch up with all of this legislation and be compliant just for a couple of hours in the evening. And it's just not possible. And those are the landlords that I think you're going to see exit the market simply because they cannot keep up with such big
Yeah.
changes.
It was interesting a while ago with this kind of the similar thing with the changes. I was part of the because they were obviously introducing the landlord database, and I sat there somewhere and said they reached out to landlords who've got portfolios or people who are building portfolios and own properties in their own name. And I kind of said to them, and then we sat down, and the whole idea really was to help shape it. I was like, and I kind of got the end of it, and they were like, "Oh yeah, well, it's going to be so much better for the tenants because they're going to be able to see everything, or the history about a property, understand it all in one place." And I was like, have you tried using Rightmove or Zoopla on the market recently? Because it just comes up with the, how much the council tax is, what the energy band is, everything. It tells you straight away. And I was like, and I sat there and we kind of got the end of it. And it's what we all know. It's just a system for monitoring landlords and effectively trying to get more money out of people to work out who's who. Um, and the most interesting bit with it was they were trying, well, we're trying to work out how we can get, tax structure and everything else to work. And I just said, well, the problem is myself, I've got one of my business partners here and I've got other business partners and we've got properties together. And I said, so are you saying the company is the landlord or I'm the landlord and who's got the login? And yeah, we had a real challenge with that. So I think this is kind of where I really sat there and I thought, well, I said to them, I was like, well, you need a letting agency to take control of this,
Mm.
ticks most of the boxes, and actually then just have the landlord log in, double check it's correct or make any alterations and push it from there. But so yeah, I think I agree. We can see landlords are just going to get possibly pushed out the market.
Yeah, they're just going to get bogged down with administration at the end of the day. If they've got to now maintain a database and they've got to be part of an ombudsman and everything else that they've got to do, they're just going to, throw the towel in
Yeah.
and say this is just too much.
So do you think there's going to be a little hidden opportunity sitting there then for the savvy investor?
It's 100%, absolutely. Because ultimately, you're going to be having landlords that are selling properties that have got tenants in, but those tenants are not problem tenants in any way. It's the government that's the problem, which is forcing the landlord to sell. So you're going to have these distressed landlords who just want to get rid of their property as soon as possible because they've issued a Section 21 that they're not going to be able to issue once the new regulations come in, and they're going to want it gone off their desk and off their problem. So absolutely, there's going to be opportunity out there because you're going to have a lot of property come to market. And the worry there is when a lot of property comes to market, price drops. So if you're able to get in to speak to a landlord directly who you hear is struggling or wanting to offload, you could have that direct conversation with or direct to vendor, and you could get a property at a really good deal that solves everybody's problem,
Yeah,
and you've got a tenant in situ, so you haven't got to worry about a void and trying to find a new tenant.
yeah. No, I 100% agree. I think my mum, she's a while ago, she bought a property just over in Halesworth, and she's like, well, look, we'll get this, we'll rent it out, we'll use it. And it got to a point where actually, as we all know, interest rates, everything else have gone up. And she sat there and was like, well, with the renters' rights bill coming in, I just need to get the tenant out, put it on the market and sell it.
Mhm.
So then I'm done and dusted. I don't have to worry about it ever again. And it was like, it got to a point, I think, for her where it wasn't even washing its face. And it's like,
Yeah.
you can see there's going to be end up being landlords there who are just motivated just to sell because they can't quite get it squared up. But hey,
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you very much, guys, very much for watching. Thank you, Julie, for sitting down with us and running through the Renters' Right Bill, how it could possibly impact tenant landlords, and how we might be able to make some money out of it. Someone else has lost, someone has gained. But if you have liked this video, please like it, and if you like to subscribe to the channel, we've got a few more videos coming with Julie. And then if you've got any comments, just drop them in the below, and I hope we'll be able to get back to you. Thanks.